The programming world splits into two groups: those who use Vim exclusively and will continue to do so until the day they retire, and those who don't, but are still a little Vim-curious. So let's see if we can help out that second group. In this Larabit, I'll show you some essential Vim keybindings that you can use in your current editor of choice. Whether it's PHP Storm or Sublime Text or VS Code, all of them have some level of support for a Vim mode. So for example, in PHP Storm, in my plugins directory, if I look for Vim, you'll see there's a plugin right here that I use. On the other hand, if you use, say, Sublime Text, Sublime includes support out of the box, but it's disabled. So if I were to search for vintage mode in the preferences, yeah, by default, vintage mode, again, that is Sublime's Vim keybinding mode, it is ignored. So you would simply override ignored packages to remove vintage mode. And that's it. You're all set to go there. And of course, the same is true for VS Code. Okay, so have a look. Let's open up any file here, a user factory. Now, if you've never used Vim before, then you know that you can click anywhere and just start typing. Pick up the mouse, move the cursor, start typing. Very standard stuff, and I'll undo that. However, with Vim, we need to think in terms of modes. So let's have a look. In PHP Storm, I can go to Tools, Vim Emulator to effectively turn on Vim mode. But now, immediately when I did that, everything changed. For example, you can see the cursor right here on line 25. Let's do exactly what we did before, where we start typing. How about the letter T? Nope, nothing. How about the letter R? Nope. How about the letter S? Something happened there. What about the letter T again? Okay, well now that's working. What about R? Okay, so what's going on here? And this is what often confuses people. They try out Vim, but it feels like it barely responds to what they type in. Some letters register and some don't. And again, that's because you need to rework your brain to think in terms of modes. And I'm going to show you 3 in this video. The first mode, which is the default mode, is called normal mode. Now, you can enter normal mode, and you need to memorize this by pressing the escape key. Now, when you do so, we use this mode for moving around the editor. But most importantly, it's not for inserting or writing new text. For that, you need a different mode called, well, insert mode. All right, so now we have 2 different modes: a normal mode for moving around the editor and an insert mode for inserting text. So why don't you work along with me? We'll set the caret here. I'm currently in normal mode. I will hit the letter I to switch to insert mode. And as soon as I do that, the editor effectively returns to what you're used to, where you can now start typing. I can hit delete to go back, everything you're used to. But now when I'm done, I hit escape again to switch back to normal mode. So when you're using Vim, you're constantly switching between these modes. And it generally follows a pattern of escape for normal mode, move to the part of the file you need to edit, press the letter I to switch to insert mode, make your changes, and then hit escape again to switch back to normal mode. And I know that may sound ridiculous. When you first hear that, you might think, or I could just move the cursor here. And trust me, you're not wrong, but I promise you, if you can drill some of these things into your head, you won't be able to go back. I used Vim for many, many years, and even after switching to an editor like PHP Storm, I wouldn't have been able to make that transition if PHP Storm hadn't supported a very solid set of Vim keybindings, because it's so very drilled into my fingers. Okay, so we have 2 modes: escape for normal mode, I for insert mode. Let's hit escape right now. To move around my file, I'm going to reach for the H, J, K, and L keys, and have a look at that on your keyboard. We'll start with J. If I press J, I go down a line, and I can keep pressing it down. Now, K is the opposite. It'll take me up. Now, I think in your editor, you should be able to hold down either of those keys to quickly go up and down. So J to go down, K to go up. Now, of course, there's countless ways to move around a file. So for example, I could hit Control D to move down 15 lines or so, and Control U to move up. But let's not worry about that right now. There's too many key bindings. For now, J will quickly take you down, and K will quickly take you up. Now, what about H and L? Let's hit J to go down a little bit. L is going to take me to the right, and H is going to take me to the left. And again, this may sound bonkers to you, but I promise it does not take very long before you don't even think about it. So let's say I wanted to add something to line 17. I would hit J to go down. I would hit I to switch to insert mode. And then I would begin typing. Protected thing equals foo. All right, I'm done. I press escape to switch back to normal mode, where I can once again hit K and J and H and L to get around my file. So again, this is really important. If I hit I again to switch to insert mode, while I'm in this mode, I can't move around the file. If I hit J, that doesn't mean go down, that means insert the letter J, because of course I'm in insert mode. If I hit K, it doesn't go up because I'm in insert mode. Instead, I hit escape to switch to normal mode, and then I can press J and K. Now, one of the other things you frequently do in your editor, of course, is you select code, right? If you want to change something, you might grab your mouse and select it. But when we're using Vim or a Vim mode, we almost want to imagine that the mouse doesn't even exist. Any action you need to do can be accomplished directly on the keyboard. So how do we go about selecting text if I can't touch the mouse? And the answer is through a different mode. And this mode is called visual mode. All right, so once again, I will hit escape to verify that I'm in normal mode. And now I'm going to hit V for visual. And notice immediately when I did that, it selected the letter S. So for now, think of visual mode almost like normal mode, but instead for selecting things. So for example, if I hit L to go right, I'm not just moving right, I am selecting every character to the right. Or if I were to hold down L, we would go in the other direction. Now, if I don't want to do that selection, of course, I hit escape one more time, and now I'm back to normal mode. All right, let's do it again. I'm going to hit V, but this time I will hit J to go down. Now I'm selecting down, or K to select upward. So you have three modes here: normal mode, insert mode, and visual mode for selection. Now, once again, I've decided I don't want to do anything here, so I will hit escape. Okay, let's hit J a couple times to go back down there, and L a few times to go into the middle. And now, one thing that's especially appealing to me about Vim is that it's effectively a language. The way you interact with your editor is a language. So for example, if I wanted to visually select all of the text between these single quotes here, well, I can use a language of sorts for that. V for visual mode, and I'm going to select the inner text between the single quotes. So I'm going to use I for inner, and then single quote. You see what I mean? It's like a language. Visually select the text in the inner quotes or inside the quotes. Let's try that again just to make sure we're on the same page. Escape to go to normal mode and sort of undo that selection. I can move around with H or L to go the other way. And anywhere within this quote, I can say VI single quote to select the text within there. Okay, but now how do we work with it? If I start typing characters here, it starts behaving weirdly again, like we talked about at the beginning of the episode. Let me hit the letter U a couple times in normal mode to undo. Again, U for undo. It's a language. Anyways, if I go back, VI single quote, I'm now going to use the letter C. C stands for change. So now I've done two things here. I've removed that text because we're going to change it, but it's also switched me into insert mode. Now I can change this to anything I want. All right, I'm done inserting text. Escape to go back out. So let's do it again, and then I'll show you a shortcut. VI single quote, C for change. I'm now in insert mode, and I change it again, and then escape to go back out. Okay, but as it turns out, if all I want to do is change the inner text within those single quotes, then I can instead say CI single quote for change inner single quotes. Let's try it. CI single quote. And now I can update this. Hit escape to go back to normal mode. But now what if these were double quotes? Like this. All right, well then I would say CI double quotes. CI double quotes. Change inner double quotes. And again, escape to go back to normal mode. Pretty cool. Next, what if I want to select this entire line? Well, I don't want to hit V and then hold down H like that. Instead, if I hit a capital V, that means I'm going to visually select the entire line, like that. So now we can see there is sometimes a distinction between the lowercase letter and the uppercase letter, which again, initially seems bonkers until you never think about it again. And you'll even get to a point where you couldn't imagine not using this system. That's why so many of us are so very annoying when it comes to Vim or Vim modes. Okay, so anyways, at this point we've selected the line. We can still use our language. So if I want to change that to something else, I hit the letter C. Or if I change my mind, I can hit escape to go to normal mode and U to undo. And I'll hit that a couple times. Now, what if I want to delete this line entirely? Then I can hit the letter D for delete, C for change, D for delete, or I for insert mode, V for visual mode. It all makes perfect sense once you understand what you're doing here. Now, it would be too much for me to show you in this video every single key binding, and I don't think that would be useful. If you're into this, you can start playing around, and then of course, every time you want to figure out, for example, well, how do I just add a new line above line 17 here? Because I want a space after that property. Well, then just Google that, and you'll learn that if you hit a capital O, that will add a new line above the current caret and switch you to insert mode. But I would recommend holding off and learning those things only when you need them. Otherwise, if somebody fills up your head with 300 key bindings, it's gonna leak and you're not gonna retain any of it. So let's focus on the basics for now. J to go down, K to go up, L to go right, H to go left, escape for normal mode, V for visual mode, or capital V for visually selecting the entire line, C for changing something that you've selected, U for undoing what you've changed, and of course, I for insert mode. Now I'll show you just a few minutes more and then we'll call it a day. What about the situations where I want to change a word here? How about corresponding? Well, change inner, I don't have quotes here, so how do I just say change this word? Well, we would use W for word. Change inner word. C-I-W. And again, escape to go back to normal mode. Let's do it again. C-I-W. And escape for normal mode. So if C-I-W works for changing the word, then V-I-W should work for visually selecting the word. Let's try it. V-I-W. Now I've selected that word. And because it's selected, I can do anything I want. I can hit D to delete, or again, U to undo. Or I could once again press C to change what I've selected. So again, try to think in terms of modes and try to think in terms of language. What are you trying to change? What are you trying to delete? If you're trying to go down, well, yes, you would hit J, but if you want to go down 5 lines, could you just hit 5J? And the answer is yes. And that language is basically press J 5 times. If I want to go up 10 lines, well, I'm on line, let's do line 20 right now. What if I hit 10K? 10 up. Now I'm on line 10. My point is, this is a language. Okay, 2 more things and then I'm out. Yes, I can hit J and H to go left and L to go right. But I can also advance using the letter W, advance a word. So I'm on corresponding here, I'll hit C again, and now I've moved on to the next word. If I hit B, I'm going to go in the opposite direction. B, 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 B. So if I wanted to move the caret to model here, yeah, I could do it in a bunch of ways. I could just hold down the letter L, and that would be okay. It's not really the Vim way, but it would work. Let's hit H to bring it back. I could also hit, as we've learned, W a bunch of times to move forward, or B to move back. Or it's a language, so if I happen to know that I want to move 5 words ahead, I don't normally do this, but again, it's a language. I could hit 5W, and that would move me forward. Or let's try 8W. There we go, and that one worked out. It's a language, so I could do that. But of course, the last thing I'll show you today, I'm going to manually bring the cursor back here. The last thing I'll show you is the / key, or this one right there, but in normal mode. So escape for normal mode, I'll hit /, and you'll see immediately it brings up this prompt at the bottom. Now I can search for anything I want. All right, I'll give it a shot. /, and I'm looking for that string model, so I will type model. And notice I have something called incremental search turned on. So as I'm typing, it automatically moves the cursor to where the first occurrence is. And I'll hit return. Okay, now I've moved to the caret where I want it to be. Now I'm at the beginning of the word, so if I simply want to change this word, I could say, well, two things. You learned about CIW, right? Changed. But let's bring it back with you a couple times. I could also just say CW. My caret is at the beginning of the word. I want to change the word, so I press CW. Okay, and that is almost always how I get around my editor. So for example, if I wanted to go to Faker right down here, but my cursor is right up here, well, again, I could hold down J and then hold down L, and nobody's going to beat you up. But let's bring it back. In real life, what I would personally do is I would hit /, I would type Faker, and it would take me to the first occurrence. Now, what if I actually wanted to go to that second occurrence of Faker that's on line 27? All right, I press N for next occurrence. Or if I hit a capital N, it will go to the previous occurrence. All right, so let's try it one more time. / Faker, enter, N for next, and I'm at the beginning of the word. I want to change it, so I press CW to change it, and then escape to go back to normal mode. Okay, so we've covered about 2% of the Vim ecosystem, but you know what? That 2% is actually going to take you a really long way. And I assure you, if you can turn these keystrokes into muscle memory, you'll never go back.